Alright, I'm Peter, this is Sho. This is our advanced two-sword class. First thing I want to do is go through everybody, say who you are, where you're from, and what you're hoping to learn from us.
Mainly my left hand because combination from right instead of just, oh, maybe I should use my left hand and throw it, and then kind of maybe block with it.
Okay.
Luna Fox, Hermes Hold, Matthew Washington. I want to learn how to eviscerate sword board users so hard they don't want to fight me.
Revolution, Scarlet Citadel, and never been trained, so just learn stuff.
Sure.
Lauren from Spanaway, Washington, and I'm just trying to find my skills.
Brand from Stormhaven, Spokane, Washington. Looking to tighten up my Florentine, just understand a little bit more principles that I'm using, and just find those tweaks and stuff to get where I really want to be.
I'm Remy, I'm from Pike, the Portland Belgarth realm, and I'm in it to win it with Florentine. Just like advancing my basically mediocre Florentine to something a little bit more polished.
I'm Ark, I'm from Illinois, I'm a member of the Emir, and I think probably one of my weaker points in two-sword is fighting two-sword on two-sword.
Yep. And he's got nice ass garb, everybody.
Alright,
Still badass.
Alright, so the first thing that I want to talk about is, I don't know, I picked the sword, just a security thing. What is your guys' definition of advanced two-sword versus basic two-sword? What do you guys think basic two-sword is? Being able to use both hands.
Yep.
Kind of more just trying to drum on things, not really knowing the fine tricks and stuff.
Creating shots. Understanding basic lane principles, inside versus outside.
Yep. Alright, so what do you, I agree with that. Yeah. Knowing when to have which foot forward.
Yeah.
And then what that's going to achieve you.
Yep.
What do you guys consider advanced work to be?
Probably setups. Yeah, setups, fakes, baits. That's primarily with, Florentine especially. And matching. A lot of times when you're first getting into Florentine, you don't really think about it. At least I didn't. I was just like, whichever one feels good at the moment, without even thinking about it.
Having a more advanced, having like 3 or 4 steps out rather than 1 or 2 steps in, as far as like
what
your
allows
fight.
you to be 3 or 4 steps out?
Having a plan, understanding.
Right, what do you do to get through the first couple steps?
Well, a lot of what we learn, what you learn as far as your reading setups, like being able to know that when I throw here, it's going to lead to here. How can I exploit that to be able to get to that, 3rd or 4th step to be able to get that kill, that kind of stuff.
The big thing that I think advanced two-sword is that you survive the fight. Right? It's really easy to kill people with two swords. It's really hard to kill people and survive, especially to get away clean. And in order to do that, you need to be able to know when to defend the attacking hand and when you can sweep away with not defending your attacking hand. And the best way to do that is to find the ability to defend the attacking hand with the back hand. And then eventually you can switch. But most of the time, you'll always be defending your forward hand with your back hand. Right? So I'm going to take a look at single sword to start with. Yes, please. Okay. Now, when you're fighting two sword, right? Fighting a boardman, I almost 99% of the time, or 990,000 times out of the one number above it, will fight hand matched to their weapon side. So that'll be my forward foot. Right? So, right. Now, when you're hand matched, right, the goal is lots of things. What hand matching does is it simplifies lanes, but that is kind of like the mediocre version. The real advantage of hand matching is so that you can fight this hand, this arm by itself, and you're staying far enough away that he can't hit your body with his weapon, right? Now, if I'm fighting him like this, and I can hit his arm, right? He can hit my body. It's much closer. Your body comes much closer because you're coming across to get at his arm, right?
So let's say I square up against the board, right? And I'm not wounded. We're both swing clean. And I'm single sword. Should I switch and fight left?
It depends on what you want to do. I typically do.
Okay.
Aggressor aggression.
As a two-sworder, the biggest danger is getting stabbed, right?
Yeah.
I mean, universally. Does anyone argue that point? Nope. No, you pretty much get poked. You don't have a fucking shield. You don't have something in front of you, a huge plane that stops him from being stabbed, right? So, I typically hand match. Hand matching will also make you profile to his stabs. It's a little bit harder. But the main thing is, if you're fighting correctly, when you're hand matched, you should be far enough away that you can fight his arm and he can't hit your body. Okay? So without a step, you can't stab you. Okay? Now, let's look at responses, right? If I throw outside on a boardman, his response is typically going to be
Go inside. High.
chopping down my arm, right? If I throw low and outside, his response is typically going to be chop down on my arm, right? If I throw cross, he's going to come outside, right? If I throw slot, he's going to typically be, if I try to stab, he's typically going to
Murder.
take my arm, right? If I'm fighting like this, and I go here, he's typically going to come down my arm. Right? If I throw low, he's going to come here. Same as single sword, right? See that? If I come cross, same as single sword, right?
This is not even in the equation.
Right? So the real trend here is boardsman's responses are 9 times out of 10 going to be the same as if you're fighting single sword. Right? So in order to anticipate where this hand needs to be in order to defend this, you need to fight single sword, yourself hit. Right? So if I swing outside on him, I want this hand to be in the way. If I throw low, I want this hand to be in the way. If I throw cross, right, you want something to be in the way. Not that ever throwing cross is really a great idea, but this is theory. Right? If I stab, right, have something in the way. Right? If I throw slot, I need to be able to have something in the way. Right? Makes pretty decent sense, right? Yeah. Alright, so just for a little bit of practice, what I want you guys to do is pair up with somebody, and then one of you gets to fight single sword, and the other of you gets to fight with a board and a sword. And then you'll switch. So the important thing to do with this is I want you to recognize when you're getting hit, why you're getting hit. Right? Alright.
I don't think my board's
I go for all of you.
Handle that sexiness.
My board's if you want it, you can have it. Oh, are we going hard?
Yeah, partner.
So Peter, are we like fighting or just kind of?
I mean,
single sword person initiate?
I think we're just doing fights, and I'll try to let them.
If I did that, would I throw that? Yeah, that's like way like. Would I throw it? Yeah, would I throw it under?
The bad place to be for there.
Yeah. Nice. You knew I was doing it too. Dodge right past it.
Got into it. I got in too close.
No, but you.
It was intentional, yeah. Lose arm all the time.
It's my left. That's why.
You got the same thing.
Throw that in there.
I'm trying to get to where, like, I know, like, you're hitting me, so I know where you're getting, so it's like, I know that's where I'm going to stop. So I'm just throwing the shot. Like, I know I'm not going to block it.
That's a little sharp, but clean.
Oh, really?
Alright, if you guys want to switch, go ahead.
I'll wear this glove. Just as long as you are.
I know, see, when I grip, it sucks, and then when I let go, it sucks.
Like this.
Yeah, exactly.
Alright, that's shield card.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the other thing, like, my floor routine, it's like, I concentrate too much on one hand doing something, and the other hand may be defense.
Yeah. And you can do. Back pedal, back pedal. It's a trick. I'm awful. Alright, gather back in. Alright. Alright, so when you guys were fighting single against the board, what are some things that you noticed?
I noticed that, I was definitely trying to fight single on single for the most part. But if he could stutter me or something like that, like if he was timing me, waiting for me to throw, cheat his shield over to where I'm throwing, I'd lose my arm and be done.
Right?
Exactly.
What else?
Kind of like what you were saying, Brian. It feels like I feel more comfortable fighting like more single to kind of wait a little bit because if you press on them too hard and you make a mistake, it's going to get painful, especially single. Whereas I feel like in Florentine, you aggress more, so you have something to block while you're aggressive.
Right? What does that tell you? The more you aggress, the more you die, right? So the closer you get to them, the easier it is for that boardman to kill you, right?
Yeah.
the safer you are. Right? That's a pretty common thing.
I did also notice the choice places that would get hit all along that same side.
Crossing is a
What'd you guys notice when you went outside? It's bad news.
If I throw outside,
It's cold outside.
It is. If I was throwing outside, it was like really chill.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I throw outside, it was very like, I gotta get in and out as quick as I can because I know there's gonna be like a turn coming real quick.
I was throwing it.
What'd you guys notice about crossing?
Terp to dirt.
I didn't even try it. I just did.
That's what I told him. I'm like, you made me cross.
How dare you, sir?
It's bad news, right? So the safest shots tend to be that inside chop, right? Alright? Now let's look at the reason why. If I throw an inside chop, the reason why, or why is this safer than say throwing here or here?
Because if you go the inside, he tries to go on the outside.
It's your max range.
If you're on the outside, he's got a free meal.
Those are all true. But the big important thing is that my hand is between his sword and me.
Yeah.
Right? My hand's here, it's further away from being in between his sword and me. And my hand's here, it's even further away from being between my hand and sword and me. Right? Right? Now, what's really interesting is, just like you said, the more you go after him, the easier you die. So the more you try to reach around somebody's guard to get at them, the easier it is for them to hit you and kill you. Right? And if you do something that's more dangerous to yourself, it makes it more, they'll react in a more predictable manner. Right? Because if I reach all the way around him here, he's gonna chop my arm. If I say throw it more shallow and go here, it becomes more questionable. You know, like he might be like, well, his hand's already kind of there. Like maybe I'll do something different. It becomes less predictable. Right? So you can recognize that and kind of use it as a tool. Now, but, so, what we established, is crossing is very dangerous. Going outside really deep is really dangerous. Coming inside slots, a little more okay.
I kind of divide the individual up in two zones, with the left and right down the middle. If I'm engaging this side, I'm inside one, not side two. Side two is dangerous. If I aggress this whole side, they have to deal with that whole side. And they're going to make more mistakes if all of my attention is focused fired on this side versus having to do this. I'll fake to this side to make them position off so that I can aggress harder on side one.
Alright, so, like we talked about a little bit before, you know, where your guard needs to be to protect you against, you know, while you hold them, right? Now, it's easy to talk about that and be like, well, you know, throw outside and have your guard in the way here for his return, right? That's really easy to be like, yeah, well, duh. That makes total sense, right? But it's actually quite hard to do in application because what do you want to do with this hand when you've got a sword in it? You want to swing it. Right, and you're a lefty, right? Is anyone else a lefty?
Kind of a lefty. I mean, like, I'm right, left-handed, and everything like that. I fight sword and board predominantly right hand, but my two-stick is predominantly left-handed.
Yeah. There's not many people like that. The only person I've ever met that's as close to ambidextrous as I've ever seen is a coworker of mine, and he'll seriously write, switch hands with his pencil, and continue writing on the page. Isn't that ridiculous?
That's kind of cool.
And it's like, man, Zach, you're amazing.
He's using left and right brain at the same time. It's just one big ooze.
Yeah, and you can't tell his handwriting's the same.
That's amazing.
It goes across the page. It is amazing. Yeah, he's pretty incredible. But so when you're predominantly right-handed and you're fighting, like being left-handed, fighting like this will be more natural until you come across another left-handed fighter. But when you put a sword in this hand, you want to swing with this hand because this hand's your killer. Right? This is the hand you like to shovel the bodies with, right? But so it's your instinct to throw with this hand, and when you throw with this hand, you're not protecting this hand. don't let me discourage you because you will end up throwing with this arm. So what we want to do to practice protecting this arm is fight weapon in this hand, weapon in this hand, right? We're going to pair back up, and you're going to fight like this, but this hand you're never going to throw with.
Put in a good solid block.
Yep.
For your shot.
Great. Just like we talked about. Alright. Alright, so pair back up with somebody different. Go separate? Cool. Yeah.
Nope. You got a shield.
Florentine against sword and board for a while? Yes, 2 sword board, sword board. Fair enough, thank you.
Remember one of your swords? This one's kind of long.
Yes, exactly. Alright, remember, if you swing with that right hand, you're dead. You're dead. Start over. You swung with the right hand.
I heard actually no joke that tactic is solid, but you gotta take a quick step in real quick like that. That'll take someone's on their knees in front of you with a board, and then you do that. The fastest thing those things do is maybe take a left.
Legs are great, but just legs. That was good. He just had
You got my hip, yeah. That's perfect. So that was a good dig.
You just got to make sure that you
The angle
hold the sword out here. Whatever shot you're throwing. And the last exercise, you want the sword to be where you think you're going to get hit from the weapon. Oh! I think he's going to hit it. When are you actually going to do it? Barely move the sword. swap it up, guys.
Well, when you were counterfighting me, most of the time you were swinging for the sword that was moving, and you were swinging like this. How can most counterfighters out? Get out. This is more like
No, this is under.
so like most of it is you're trying to go still blocking that lane. I'm trying to and then when they see that shot, stutter the throw. And even when I'm stuck with the throw, in their sear so I can block out. Do the same. That's the goal. Get onto that inside.
Same moves against you.
There we go. Yeah. Well, there's shoot on the inside. Right. So I'm swinging. If you, well, you're not going for the one shot kill.
I lost control for a second. Don't do that. That's right, correct.
Throwing that safe shot, where are you going to respond? Right. So if I know that that's where I respond to, throw, and I'm going to throw with that box in mind, now you're dead. Right? So if I know that that happens, if I get dead to that a couple of times, now I know I'm going to throw that a little bit safer. You're trying to create that by initiating that response. You're not trying to just be like, bam, I get that one shot.
Yeah, the fact that you were here.
Back up.
It's just a little stutter. But I don't, that's never my
Come on back in, Art.
fights in. A couple fights in. You know? After I know that they respect that shot, they've died to it a couple of times, then you turn that.
Come on back in. Okay, so what did you guys notice about that?
I have a really hard time getting to the inside lane versus sword. Like, it's so much easier to go out. And then, like,
easier to go out,
I mean, it's easier to go out, but then even if I can get it open, it feels like it's hard to come back and then come in. I don't know.
It was hard for me having this hand as just a blocking hand, specifically not because I knew that they were completely not threatened by it, so they would just cheat the board, block it out, and then just like crush past my defense because they weren't threatened by me.
Right.
So that was tough.
Right.
For me personally.
What did you notice about the board? What did the board do?
Well, the board like went over more. Much
The board
more.
the board's like
Cheated it over.
coming all the way over here, right?
Yeah. That's how I started off fighting. I know it was kind of.
And every
cheesy,
time
but I was like
you know they
this.
start to fight here, and every time you swing, it goes like this.
Yep.
Swing again, it goes like this. So this, right? So this is basically a typewriter. Right?
I like remember this, but every time I start laughing.
Exactly.
And it's like, it's so
When
great.
you bring out Big Daddy right hand and crush their shoulder, that's your enter button. Okay? So you're gonna be like ding 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 ding, pow, pow, and this thing comes back over here. Now, when you transition into swinging with that right hand, you got to keep it the same. You got to protect this hand. This hand's been your aggressor the whole time, and you've been protecting it. Now, when you transition into swinging with your right hand, and there are many instances where you will want to, you need to transition that swing. This is protecting your hand, right? So, if you look at your right hand, you throw out here, where's he going to return? Down arm, right? If you're fighting two sword, that's generally a poor thing to choose. If you throw here, where's his return? Down my body. If you throw here, where's his return? Down arm, right? Right? Basically pretty simple. So we're looking at the same principle we're doing with the left hand. So when you transition with the right hand, just say I want to throw for his shoulder, I'm going to bring my left hand into protecting it. If I throw here, my left hand is going to be protecting it. Right? If I'm going to want to throw here, my left hand is going to be protecting it. Right? So I can be fighting him, you know, swing, swing, right? But you transition. Right? You got to pay attention because like he threw up, right? So seeing that, I should have been pulling away. But you know what I mean, right? So that's what you want to do. You want to transition into using your other hand as the defense and then transition back. A lot of times it'll feel like you basically have like a 10-inch string connecting your hands together, and they're going to be together the whole time, no matter where you're swinging, the whole time. Right? So,
Now is that predominantly against sword and board?
we'll get to two sword.
Okay, cool. I was just checking.
Yeah. Right? Any questions? Makes sense though, right? All right.
Is there like a reliable way to kind of like open up that like inside lane on that swing arm? Instead, I mean like coming out and then like what coming around their sword up, they block it coming in, or
Oh yeah, there's all kinds of things. So we'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, we're still on the defensive topic. I'll get to how you can move people around here in a little bit.
I like moving people.
Yeah. All right. Any questions? All right. So go back with your partner for a little while and fight two sword. Let both arms be active. But if you swing with your right hand at the same time you swing with your left hand, and neither one of them is defending, call yourself dead and scream out, "I am horrible."
So say that again. You're what? Don't do this. Okay, yeah.
If you swing with both hands at the same time, call yourself dead and scream out how terrible and horrible you are.
running swan dive to the right.
Yep. Okay?
I'm gonna Josh you. I'm a nice kill guy.
Sit down.
Alright?
New partners or
New partners.
safe?
Different partners.
Sure. Save a little bit. A bit of a ready grab.
They do nothing. Board good. Board show.
What? What? Okay. Quite a little bit like that.
Alright, Boardman. Beat the hell out of them.
Defense on your hands without attacking your second hand.
striking, left hand defending, left hand striking. Striking goal.
Scream it out! There you go. I know, but you were like this.
Well, that give me a hug. I'm like,
Oh, yeah, you tackle the other one, you gotta yell. Oh. Still gotta yell it, it doesn't mean if it was viable.
All right, go ahead and switch if you want. I'm horrible. There you go. Yeah, it has range for the using it so well.
you're really lefty, right? Yeah. No, the problem is, you're going for where my shots are originally going. When I get to about here, I do a half circle. Or, instead of down to it, take the angle of attack. Yeah, and then finish. Because for that, there you go.
Well, no, it's okay.
No lazy, it's practice, you're just gonna be like,
Trying to get over with. Remember that typewriter thing you were saying? So the moral of that story. Yeah, she doesn't walk that side. That'll help a lot. Finding a two-stick fighter that knows how to use the left hand. Right? So what was I doing? Boom. Boom. Bunch. Boom. Shoulder. I'm back. Boom. 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 Exactly. That's good. Clear. Yeah. That's what it is. That's like actual application.
All right, gather back in.
I will smoke his ass every time now. He's very linear. Yeah, his attack, and you take 145, and then he has to reset. He's like a tank. Always be prepared.
Alright, what do you guys think?
No two people are the same.
No two people are the same.
True.
So I definitely saw that typewriter effect. I'd work the left side, or work his right side,
Right.
and then work that
Yep.
left side. My trouble
Sorry.
was
Okay, I'm not sorry.
when I was transitioning to the left versus right. I felt comfortable with that, but actually trying to get that block in there every single time. Like I can throw and throw, like they're not throwing at the same time, even close. Like I'm purposeful in that, but actually maintaining a good guard. It's like a meh guard.
Right. A
You
lot of
know?
times what you'll notice is you'll be like, you'll throw, and then they'll return, you'll block one, and then you'll throw, and your other hand will be way over here for some reason.
Right.
And you're like,
Right. I was noticing something along those lines.
you're giving up the ghost here, bud.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
I was like, ah,
You're just
curse
throwing
you.
off weight. If this
Curse
thing has
you.
to come out here, you're throwing way off weight.
Yeah, that's...
If you're trying to balance.
Sure.
Even like not having good footwork, but at least moving your feet for like from left to right. Even if I'm like all off balance and stuff, still better than not.
Stopping movement.
What'd you guys notice? You guys haven't talked much.
Not you.
You talk all the time.
I just want some. I was having trouble grasping the typewriter concept until like right when like started working. Pretty much he'd already set my observation.
Right.
It comes to the same way.
Sure. What about you?
What are you, little G-Walker?
I just need to work on
It's hard. It's hard, right? I mean, it's not easy, right? Now, I know old boy over here was thrusting a lot. He was stabbing a lot, right?
Yeah, I got that.
You got stabbed a lot, right? So one of the things I want to talk about quickly is stopping getting stabbed. You will never ever be able to like fully fight so that you're far enough away because it's the unpredictable nature of fighting. I'll never be able, like, if Joe and I are fighting, I'd never be able to always stay far enough away that he couldn't stab me. Okay? So you need to be able to stop that. Okay? Alright, so okay, so he can stab basically in three different manners, right? He can do a straight stab, he can do an outside hook stab, and he can come underneath and come from an inside hook stab. Okay? Right? Yeah. The outside one can either come high or low, coming from outside, and still coming from roughly this out, the same vector, right? Whether that's coming high or low. The straight stab can either come low or it can come high, right? And even the high one turns into a slight bit of a hook stab from the outside. So a really high straight stab is actually quite rare.
Yeah, because it goes in your face.
Yeah, generally, or you can't get a shoulder, or it's coming like straight over top. And then even then, it is still basically a hook stab, but it'll more often than not be coming actually like an angle like this or this, right? So if you look at how a stab comes forward, right? The stab's coming forward. Think of this as a vector. Okay. Now, if you want to stop this thing from coming at you, right? It's really hard to do like a straight opposition force and get something straight in the way of that to stop it, right? It's much easier to come and push it from one side to the other, right? So, if this stab is coming a hook stab from the outside, right? It'll be really difficult for me to actually push this stab out and away with my left hand, unless it's really coming wide. And I can catch the inside of it and bring it out, right? Right? With this hand, it's even more difficult, right? All I have is the inside on it. And when it's coming in like this, I'm basically opposing the incoming point.
Reducing your range.
And reducing my range. So, if he's stabbing from here, I need to get that stab pushed out and away. Or if I miss the tip, I need to push it to this side, right? So if the hook stab's coming from the outside, it's this hand's job to stop it. If it's coming straight on, straight on, blocking it here is an option with this hand, right? And here you're going to have to use your judgments, because if my feet are a little bit further to the right of his, right, then I'm going to be pushing it here. Yeah? If my feet are a little to the left, I'm going to be pushing it here. Right? If his hook stab's coming in underneath, this way here, right, just like before, this is really hard for me to do. This opposing the tip. This becomes easier. Right? The other part of it is, if they come in with a stab, and I take a straight step back to avoid getting stabbed, it is much harder for me to take a step back than it is for him to take a step forward and lean forward and stab me. So then, the thing to do is to retreat some kind of lateral fashion, or lateral fashion rather than longitudinal. So you take lateral steps, right?
Right? Because you're still using your right hand to block on the left side.
Right? But the big thing to remember, most of the time you're going to stop a stab with your right hand, unless they're coming from an outside stab, then it's the left hand's job to stop that stab. It's really hard to throw right, and you go over here and do that.
And then throw over your own body.
Right.
Even though I see Brent do it all.
Right? Does that make sense? Getting stabbed is the biggest danger to a shooter, but as long as you step laterally instead of running away, or if you're going to run away, I even start to move away. Like I even ran away at an angle, right? Running away straight is going to get you stabbed. Running away at an angle will let you survive. Okay? Alright, now you're talking about opening the inside lane, because that is the safest place to do it. Right? And if you have this hand here in the way of when you're doing stuff, your inside lane is pretty well closed off. He's basically going to either attack this outside lane or this outside lane, right? What's the best way to get to somebody's inside lane?
Get him to go outside.
Get him to go outside. So if you have your hands in the right places, you've already got it set up to do that, right? So all you need to do is is on you. You should win every fight.
Oh yeah.
Right? If you cross on a boardman, they should win every fight. Right? Anytime you allow their shield to protect themselves from both of your weapons, you're going to lose the fight. Right? This is what's going to keep him alive. If you keep this shield honest with this hand, make his hand fight this hand, you should be able to control the fight. The minute you do this number, so that his shield is protecting himself from either one of your weapons, then he's got free action with his weapon. Okay? Yes.
Just real quick, does that apply to still if you're throwing something not intended to hit but getting them to bite for it? So that if I'm like throwing, the basic short cross, fake, to get them, I want them to throw here all the time so I can block and then hit. Right?
No, it doesn't apply, and the reason why, like if you're saying, yeah, you throw your short cross like to his hand or something. What you're doing is you're actually still keeping this hand here in defense, right? And I mean, and this hand's still able to come back over on his shield. Does that make sense? Like, because if you throw a short cross here, right? I mean, I'm still protecting my inside lane.
Yeah.
My weapon is still between him and me, and this hand is still keeping the scare on his outside lane. So he can't just give up that outside lane and come across on my arm or come under and try to stab me without me being able to do something about it. Right? But yeah, other ways to get them, like if they just do not go to the outside at all, if they just stand there and poke at you.
They tank you.
Yeah, they tank you. Exactly. They tank you. The good ways to do that is stuff like what he was just saying, like make it super tasty for him to come outside.
And then when he comes outside,
right? You don't throw that with the intention of hitting.
No, yeah.
Right?
Make him think that you're trying to.
Right.
And he goes, I'm going to punish him, and then you punish him.
Right? So if he's got his guard up, right? If I can get to that shot, right? Like, that's a threatening shot. So rather than throwing it like that, so I'm all bent over and dangerous, do it from about 3 inches further back. So instead of stepping to here, I'll step to here and throw the shot. And I'll make it look like it's just as dangerous, right? But because I'm a little further back and a little less bent over because I'm reaching less, I'm not hunching, I can protect myself easier. But I make him think that the threat's there so I can draw him out and make myself look safe.
Come in with him, and then when he tries to riposte on that, come on, take it.
Well, so he's sit there, and now I'm coming back there, just follow this back, and now.
And it's not even, and you don't, the other thing that's important to remember with two swords, right? If I want to protect my inside lane, right, my sword needs to be here. My outside lane, sorry, my sword needs to be here. If I want to protect my inside lane, my sword needs to be here, right? If I project this out, I'm protecting the inside lane here, right, that was here. In order to protect the outside, I need to be here. So the more you project your defenses out, the easier it is to protect yourself. Right? Now, the big fault is that when you have your planes all projected like that, your defense projected, it's much easier to get stabbed because you tend to want to oppose the point of the stab, and you're already at full extension, and so you can't like push it away like that, right?
It's also a little bit more difficult to not throw shots with a telegraph. And that
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. So what you need to do is you need to be able to throw from your body,
throw from your body.
right, rather than throwing from your arm.
Yep.
Right?
We start with your body in, but you finish out. So, boom, now they throw them.
There's the best way to learn how to open people up is just experiment. Other things that I'll do to open people up is they'll throw a slot right here, and they're like, it's my turn to swing, right? And when you're here, then you got inside fighting.
Like that block strike mentality.
Right. Now, a common mistake a lot of people make is when they swing outside on you, they want to do this. Now, the reason why you don't want to do that is if you do this, he can either block with his weapon, right? But he can do the same here. But if he brings his shield over to protect his arm, that's the whole core purpose of having his hand here is so you can crush that shoulder. Right? But if he brings this hand over and you swing here or if he brings his shield over and you chop down with your right, opportunity lost. If he opens on the outside and you return with your sword, with your same side sword, and he brings his shield across, opportunity is not lost. Right? Now if he's fighting right, he'll turn his knuckles up like that. Right? So then from there, he's still got his shield high, but turning his knuckles up here exposes down here. So the opportunity is still not lost. Or stays. Yep.
Yep.
Questions so far? Does it not make sense to somebody?
Can you elaborate that last one? The last opening.
Oh, okay. So if he opens to the outside, and you'll see a lot of people turn their knuckles up, like to stop this, to stop your left hand return. Now if my hand is here, if my right hand is here protecting my left, and he turns his knuckles up, and you can get your tip underneath really easily, this lane's open for lots of manipulations. And this weapon is between his sword and me, so this weapon is now my defense, right?
Yeah.
Right?
That's like those weird opportunities where crossing is actually legitimately okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Another thing you'll notice fighting against left-handed fighters, especially good left-handed fighters, is they basically never cross. Ever. And so it's quite humorous because a lot of times you'll find that your guard will drift further, your defensive, like my left hand will drift further and further over, and I'll end up fighting them like this. Right? Because they don't ever cross, they just chop or hack on this side. And this hand stays there the whole time, and every time he throws, then I come flying over, right? Yeah. And so I'll basically be like doing my very best to clobber that left hand. Right? But there again, this hand becomes my defense, right? Just like when we're over here. That make sense?
Yeah. Definitely.
All right, let's talk about two sword on two sword. So, fighting two sword on two sword, generally what I'm going to do, I'm going to look at who I'm fighting. I'm going to look at which foot is forward. Right? Most people are right-handed. Some people aren't. If it's somebody that I know is left-handed, then I usually treat him a little special. Like if I'm fighting Glenn, I know his left hand is really very good, and his left hand might as well not be there. I will hand match his left hand no matter what foot he has forward, because that's the danger. Right? Now, if he's say I've never fought Sho before, and he leads with his left like that, I'll lead with my right. Now, the purpose of this is basically his most forward point is his shoulder, his forward shoulder. That's the shoulder I want to be fighting. That's the arm I want to be fighting. Because if I'm staying far enough away, just like before, where if I can fight his arm and he can't stab me, right, just like the boardman, that means he also can't hit me in the body with his back hand. Right? So then how I want to treat this is I want to kill that arm. Right? Unless he really leaves this arm out to dry and I can get to it and kill it. But for the most part, I want to kill this arm here. Okay? So I'm going to
Kill the hand you're matching.
in most cases. So I'm going to be matching that hand, right? So when I'm fighting with this hand, just like before, same rules apply, this hand becomes your defense, right? Now a lot of people, your instinct is like, well, he's got two swords, that makes it really complicated, right? Now remember, this hand stays between what he can kill me with and me. Right? If I take and I open to the outside, he's going to come inside my arm, right? Or over here. But in both cases, it's coming to this side, right? So this is where I need to defend myself, right here, right? If he's got his hands a little further apart, and I chop here, he's gonna throw down on this one here, so this is where this hand needs to be. And if he catches that block on the inside with his hand, then he's gonna be returning where? Outside? So that's this hand's responsibility to protect here, right? If he's got both hands up, and I throw to his backhand, right? This hand is between all this stuff, right? That makes sense?
Yeah. My question is, with the weird people that will fight like one hand dominant but the opposite foot forward,
Uh-huh.
I mean, it just feels, kind of like that. Yeah. It's a weird fighting stance, and
They do that for this.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the Jack in the Box. I get 6 feet of movement, if you know how to do 6 feet of movement, and it generates angle differences. So instead of attacking his weapons at a straight-on portion, when I take that hard step now, I have my dominant hand here. I have 12 degrees to his kidneys.
right. Well, okay, so
It's leading into.
It's leading
How
into
do you-
more.
how do you-
That, and he has
how do
to
you
cross
fight
to get me
something
with this
like
hand
that?
now. I've just taken that hand and made it dumb.
Like if I'm fighting something like that, right? A lot of times if somebody's like this and they come forward, they switch feet and come forward with that step, that's a great time to turn away from that, right? And when somebody generally switches their feet on me, I'll generally switch my feet on them.
Dancing.
The other thing is if people switch their feet within range of you, because when the way he's stepping, like when we're like this, his body is not within range of me, right? When he switches feet, even if he doesn't actually come totally forward, now his body's in range of me, right? And so the way he has to defend his lanes is going to have to change. And that's really actually pretty hard to do because you're changing your frame of reference, right? Like where your center line is and where your shoulders are pointing. To be able to defend with that the whole time, basically you have to move with it the whole time. So there's oftentimes an awful lot of opening areas where you can strike basically with free action because they're too busy defending themselves.
they're too busy defending themselves.
That, and in the middle of a foot transition, there's weight transfer. If you can lock that down with a quick like that, they're dead in the water. They're anchored.
If you're fighting two-sword on a boardman and they switch their feet, hit them in their leg that they're standing on. Because if somebody does this, right? If they lift this leg in any way, they can't move this leg. And what are they going to do? Go like this? Right? Right? So back to two-sword on two-sword. Now, so say for a fun fact of the day, if you're fighting single against a two-sworder, you're down arm, what's the safest thing that you can do?
Simon stab.
Right? Say I stab at him, Simon stab, but you're still losing.
Yes.
Right? So if you stab at him, right, you can come from both sides, right? You come from this lane and you come from this outside lane, right? Like his shot. If you come outside, he's got a free action to hit you with this hand that you're not defending yourself with. So if you throw cross, right, you've got your weapon between you and both of his weapons. So that's actually the safest thing you can do. A short cross. So it's really
Little jab.
yeah. So it's really easy, when they're like this, right? And they'll generally they'll block with that hand, and they'll be like, oh, it's this hand's turn to swing, and then you can catch the outside return and come arm, And then they'll be like, oh shit, you took my arm, I should swing with that arm. Then you're like, bam, bam. Right? Now,
Good times.
like we said, now, if I've got two weapons and I'm fighting here and I throw outside, that shot's still going to be coming down my arm, right? Or he's going to want to poke at me or whatever, but if I'm staying far enough away, he's going to come down my arm. So this hand's still here. If I come inside stab, this hand's protecting this side, this hand's protecting this side. Right? If I throw cross, this hand, my hand drift up here to stop that, the drop down on my arm. And then this hand is protecting low. And then if he swings high on this side, this hand needs to be able to come back. Right? And if we do that, I've got inside lane control, free action, and I've stuffed out that lane, right? So if you stay far enough away so that they can't stab you easily, I mean, they might still try, and then you shut them down. But
So I'm a really super aggressive Florentine, and there's something I do that's called a block transition. So I'll get a block with, let's say, this sword. So you struck this way. Because I'm aggressing, the sword isn't moving. They can't pull it back into their body. They pull it back in their body, they've lost. So when I get the first block, it's boom. Now I've got both these swords blocked with this one sword, and I can punish them for days. That's because I aggress. I don't take a straight lane at them. I take a side lane, and it's just, I get the block here, transition, and move.
That's awesome.
the other thing that's important that what he's doing is he's not aggressing straight on. Anytime you aggress straight on, you're going to get stabbed. Right? Yep. Even if you have your hands like this, and you come at somebody, they're still going to stab you. A lot of times, if you aggress straight on when you go outside, you aggress straight, it's toward the outside, right? You're going to get stabbed. They're going to catch that block and they're going to stab, right? Because you're aggressing straight forward, because you're aggressing within their stab range and you're aggressing straight forward, it's very hard to stop the stab. If you're going to aggress within stab range, you need to be coming at, coming on angle, because then it's really easy to stop that vector from an angle.
And don't leave the ground with both your feet.
Yeah, never jump at it.
But the double jumping scissor wrap, that works every time, right?
Every time.
Every time at Nero.
1000 hit points. All right. So, I mean, what we just talked about, I mean, that's really not that difficult, right? I mean, it's really, in theory, that's really not that complicated. Yes, they have two weapons, but the lanes don't change, right? And if you stay far enough away, the stab threat doesn't change. And so your main goal then is to control what? What's the most dangerous if you're staying far enough away?
They get in your arm, taking your arm.
Down which lane? Inside lane. So your job is to what? Control the inside lane. Force them outside. Yep. Force them to either throw out here, or force them to throw either out here. And position your hands accordingly.
Picture like a turtle shell over him. You want them to be playing on the outside of the turtle shell where it's the hardest. Where all the nice juicy meats in here is where you want to aggress to and protect. You're not going to want to get hit in soft tissue, right? So, soft tissue, hard tissue.
Right? And the other thing about the outside lanes, is that if he feels like he needs to come really far outside to hit me, this hand generally gets really far from that hand. So he's left this arm out to dry.
Like 2.5 feet. What did he say earlier? 10, 12 inches?
Right. If he reaches really far around this way, it's really hard for him to defend this arm. He's stringing it out more, right? The closer your hands are together, it's easier to protect the throat. So if you're going to go outside, don't commit so hard. fight two sword on two sword for a little bit? Yeah. Get to it. Different partners.